Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I can't see you. I don't think I've ever addressed a group of this size, except possibly at my son's football game when I stood up and yelled, "Way to go, son." But they didn't know who I was, and neither do you yet. My name is Pat Ware, and I'm the general manager here with Boise Cascade in Atlanta. New to the area, I've met some of you, not all by any means, and I want to thank you on behalf of everyone at Boise Cascade for coming out today, and most of all, thank you for your business. We have a great agenda. We've got 4 of our key suppliers here. This is not a product show, though. It's not about selling products. It's the Power Series, productivity, organization, work enhancement resource. And hopefully today when you leave, you'll walk away with some ideas and thoughts on how to be more effective in your jobs. And then, of course, we have our keynote speaker, Mrs. Barbara Bush, and I'm as thrilled as you are to have an opportunity to spend some time with her today. A couple of housekeeping issues. Hope you've enjoyed the coffee and the continental breakfast. We will be having a couple of breaks this morning. We're going to try to keep this on a tight agenda. We've got a lot of things to go through, so please honor that at the breaks. Restrooms, if you haven't already found them, are out the door and to the right. Safety is very important at Boise Cascade, so please just take a quick look around. There are some fire exits should emergency arise, so wanted to draw those to your attention. I hope that you all got your raffle tickets in. We will be having 50, I believe it is, correct me if I'm wrong, 50 raffles, and each winner of a raffle will have an opportunity to join us in our VIP reception to have a book signing with Barbara Bush. So keep your fingers crossed that your names will be drawn. Let's see, what else? At the end of our session, when you sat down today, if you didn't notice it, there was a sheet on your chair, and that's a little survey asking about the program today, and we'd sure appreciate you filling that in and giving us some feedback on how the program goes. Okay? All right. We will get ready with our first speaker, and if you are like me, let me see, I just want to get his notes here a little bit so I don't miss anything. But if you're like me, your to-do list, both professionally and personally, is probably a whole lot longer than you can manage. And unfortunately, there's no way to get more time. So we have a gentleman here from the DayTimers organization. His name is Mark Swain, and he's going to talk with us a little bit this morning about how to increase our capacities. Mark has worked for 15 years in doing workshops and seminars. He's an award-winning speaker with Toastmasters and was named Outstanding Young Man of America in 1998. He's a professional member of the National Speakers Association and president of the Utah Speakers Association. Mark?
Folks, I'm delighted to be with you here today. And like all of you, I'm excited to hear former First Lady Barbara Bush's keynote address. But right now I've been asked to talk to you a little bit about time, our most valuable commodity, without which you and I can do literally nothing with our lives. Before we started today, I looked around. It's always kind of fun to look out into the audience and kind of see what people are doing. I noticed that a number of you, as we got close to starting time, were kind of looking at your watches. And I guess the most asked question in the entire world is this: what time is it? I'd like to turn those words around a little bit and come up with another question. Time. What is it? I'd like you to team up with a neighbor and take about the next minute and a half or something. I'd like you to come up with your best definition of time. What is it? Go ahead and group up and let's see what you come up with. Okay, stop. Who's got a definition for time that they would not mind sharing with the entire group in here? Could I see some hands? Right here. Yes, sir.
The space between life and death.
You know, one of the things I really appreciate in life, folks, is somebody that can really distill things down to the essence. That is distilling things down to the essence. What's your name, sir?
Glenn Welch.
Glenn Welch, I'd like to give you a DayTimer insert, and hopefully you can continue to get better control of your time in your life. Between life and death. Okay. One back here. Yes, now why don't you go ahead and stand up. Your name is?
Donna Gillespie.
Donna Gillespie. What's your definition of time?
It's a man-devised system that we use to help us keep track of the things we have to do between light and day, or dark.
I'm not going to repeat that one. That sounds like Webster. Are you related to Webster by any chance? I'd like to go ahead and give you a DayTimer insert as well. Let's give these folks a hand, folks. As we all know, Albert Einstein was one of the most respected minds of the 20th century. Here's what Mr. Einstein had to say when it comes to the question of what is time. Time is the occurrence of events one after another. In other words, folks, when you and I are managing time, what we are actually managing are events. And that's becoming harder and harder to do because of what we call the triple crossfire. Today, you and I are influenced by three factors. I'd like to talk just a little bit about these factors. The first one is technology. As we all know, technology is tripling every 18 months was the last figure I heard. I had a guy the other day tell me it's tripling about every year. I don't know what the figure is, but I know that technology is literally changing the face of our world. We are literally in information overload. And of course, as we all know, with all that added information comes the need for specialists. With the need for specialists comes the need to run our businesses a little bit differently. We have to team up, reorganize, on and on and on. And as we all know, technology is driving everything tremendously faster. So now you and I are dealing with something else. We're dealing with speed. Do you realize that we can send information from this room right here to London, England, and back in about 7 seconds? And some people think that's too slow. The third factor that we're dealing with is change. Technology and speed together are driving change. You and I live in an era that is characterized not merely by transition, but by transformation. Transition is slow and incremental. Transformation is dramatic. It's like that. You and I, as we look at our business climate, as we look at the future, you and I really don't even know what that geography is going to look like in 6 months from now. Some of us don't even know what that's going to look like a week from now. And so it's causing a lot of stress. These three things together have created a new phenomenon in time management, which we call time compression. Time compression is the expectation that you and I will manage more events per measurable period of time than any other group of people who have ever lived on the face of this planet. And not only will we manage more events, but we'll manage them with higher quality and with fewer resources. Okay? You feel the pressure, I feel the pressure, we all feel the pressure, and it creates a tremendous amount of stress. In fact, if I were going to characterize time compression graphically, it might look something like this. This is Jack. He's experiencing what we call the Jack attack. He's got fax, beeper, voicemail, email. He's getting information from everywhere. He doesn't know which way to turn. He's frazzled. In fact, he hasn't even had time to feed his pets, and so his bird's helping himself to the fish. I want you to notice what is under his left elbow. Jack is literally up to his elbows in alligators, but under his left elbow is a little boy. Folks, you and I have a question of balance here. How do we give our jobs the very best effort that we have every day and still have time in our lives for family, friends, outside interests, all the other things that are still important to us in our lives? Now, I submit to you that the answers are not easy, and I'm going to be the last person that's going to stand before a group of people like this and say, hey, I got all the answers, because that would be super hypocritical for me to do that. But we have learned some things in time management. And what I think the starting point is to returning to concentration of power. Concentration of power is the ability to focus upon and accomplish the most vital priorities. Okay? When I think of concentration of power, folks, I'm taken back to my childhood. You've all seen one of these magnifying glass. Perhaps you had an experience such as mine. When I first discovered this little tool here, it opened up whole new worlds to me. Everything that was small could be made bigger. One day I was outside playing with my magnifying glass, and I noticed a little circle of light on my arm. As I went through this little voyage of discovery, I soon found that I had inadvertently projected the sun's image onto my arm. And I discovered that if I moved the glass around, I could make that image big or small. Ouch! I burned a hole in my arm with the dumb thing. I said, what is this thing? And then I started reasoning. I thought, you know, if I could burn my arm with this, I could probably burn paper. You know, little boys think that way, but I've got to tell you, the other day as I was preparing for this, I actually went out in the backyard and I started some paper on fire again. I had to relive that childhood experience. But sure enough, you focus this little point of light on a piece of paper, it will begin to smolder, and then it will begin to burn. Well, what's all this about? Why am I telling you this cute little story? You and I, everybody in this room, we share two resources, and they're both limited. Those resources are time and energy. And I believe our only hope, folks, dealing with this hectic world is to learn how to concentrate that time and energy to get optimal effect. Because if we don't do that, we're not going to get where we need to go with our lives. Before we're able to do that, folks, we need to throw one more factor into the equation here. We need to talk a little bit about urgency. And what I'm going to suggest that all of us do is make urgency our friend, not our foe. Let me define what urgency means. Urgency means calling for immediate action. So technically, if you look at that definition, that's really not a way to prioritize. Urgency is a condition or a situation that elicits action from us. And once we understand what urgency really is, then we're more prepared to deal with time in the time investment quadrants. There are four of them. At any given time during the day, you and I are operating in one of these four quadrants. And by the way, if this looks a little bit familiar to you, it's because many time management programs have created permutations of this model, a model that we've been using since 1972. Up here in the first quadrant, crisis. Here, events are important and urgent. An example of this might be when the system goes down. Everybody scrambles. We've got to get that system back up so that we can get back and do our work. The next quadrant is quality. Here, events are important, but they're not urgent. Now, a good example of this might be exercise. I'm going to be honest with you. When this is over today, I'm going to hop on a plane and fly back to Salt Lake City, and when I get home, I'm going to be really tired, and I'm probably going to tell myself, even though I know I need to exercise, it doesn't matter if you do it today. One day isn't going to matter, okay? It's easy to put it off. And folks, the things in this second quadrant here, quality, they have high payoff, things such as long-term planning, exercise, family, friends. But because they're not urgent, sometimes you and I don't give them the attention that they deserve. The next quadrant is reaction. Here events are not important, but they are urgent. A good example of this, probably the best example I can think of in my personal life right now, is email. In fact, I heard an account of an executive not too long ago that went on a 10-day business trip, and when he returned, he had 2,000 email messages. Anybody in here ever had 2,000 email messages? I've never had 2,000, but I've had quite a few, and I'm sure that a lot of you folks have been in that situation as well. Now, all those things are not important, as you and I know, but they seem important because they're urgent. They come via the technology, and technology creates this sense of urgency. The final quadrant is escape. Here things are not important, and they're not urgent either. The best way I can characterize this is to kind of come up with a situation I run up once in a while. My life gets so hectic that once in a while I get to the place where I just want to curl up in my easy chair with a hot fudge sundae, a copy of the National Enquirer, my remote to watch Days of Our Lives. But a question I have for all of you folks, who doesn't get to that place once in a while? It's real easy to get there. It's real easy to want to escape because of all the pressure that's on us. Anyway, what's all this about? Well, let me suggest something, folks. Just suppose that you and I could spend fewer minutes per day in the crisis quadrant. Just suppose that we could spend a few less minutes reacting to the wrong kinds of things during the day. Just suppose that we would feel the need to escape a little less often because we'd be more in control of our lives. Just suppose that you and I could take 60 minutes a day and move them from those three quadrants into quality. Do you realize that if we did that for a full year, that you and I would have reinvested 6 40-hour work weeks in our lives? And I submit to you that that would make a tremendous impact on both my goals and your goals.